tonight.
I was escorted by security to the washroom.
A woman fighting to break down barriers to abortion access faces one entering the Saskatchewan legislature. And as flu rates surge, parents still struggle to find medication for their sick kids. Plus, a Saskatchewan First Nation is beaming about its new solar power project.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Wednesday, November 9th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Many parts of Saskatchewan have limited access to abortion. That issue was front and center at the legislature today, but the way it played out shocked those fighting for change. Several abortion rights groups and providers rallied outside the legislative building before attending question period. The NDP is calling for a provincial intake system that would provide abortion referrals to all women, no matter where they live in the province. It also wants surgical abortion centres in Prince Albert and Saskatoon, like the one that exists in Regina. As the group argued for fewer barriers, one of the advocates was stopped as she entered the building. Megan Johnston says security made her change her shirt.
I could not wear my shirt into the building and I had to turn it inside out. I was escorted by security to the bathroom to ensure my shirt was turned inside out. So that word, I'm assuming abortion, not healthcare, but was not visible in the room. Like, why? And he said, you can't wear that word. Even the security guard, he couldn't muster up the courage to say the word abortion. And so I was shocked. I was surprised. I thought, what if I was wearing a shirt that said knee surgery is healthcare or optometry is healthcare?
Building protocols prohibit anything that may be used as part of a demonstration. Johnston says abortion is a health service. She launched a billboard campaign with the same slogan in August. As for improving abortion access, Health Minister Paul Merriman says there are some inconsistencies within the province that the government is reviewing. On top of abortion access and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, there are other public health concerns are weighing on Canadians' minds. Flu cases are skyrocketing, with children and teenagers being hit particularly hard. This has some people asking, should we be masking up again? Julia Wong reports.
Jasmine Murphy is lining up at the walk-in clinic before it opens, so her sick son can see a doctor.
He's had a fever for a couple days now, and he had it last week, and we thought it broke, and back again this week.
The Edmonton woman says it seems like everyone is getting sick.
We're definitely going to get our kids to mask back up, and hopefully that'll help with this flu and cold season right now.
The number of cases of kids with respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is surging. COVID-19 is still hammering hospitals, and nationally, the number of flu cases is rising steeply, according to the Public Health Agency of Canada. And if test positivity remains stubbornly high, an influenza epidemic will be declared by the federal government.
We're looking at an earlier rise in our peak of both influenza infections as well as hospitalizations. It's about a 3-week shift.
That shift in timeline means Canadians could be in for a tough winter, Kelvin says.
We might have a more prolonged respiratory virus season when usually we really had to worry in that mid-December range.
Once we drop some of these public health measures like mandates for masking and social distancing, etc., that kind of is going to set us up for kind of a tidal wave.
Concerns over that tidal wave prompted Toronto's Board of Health to ask the city's medical officer of health to explore bringing back mask mandates, starting with schools.
Well, my son's immunocompromised, so we're for it.
I think as a parent of a young child, I wouldn't go that route.
It would work with getting the virus away, but it would be difficult because it's just not fun wearing masks.
With growing worries over the healthcare system,
ready for the second one.
The Prime Minister is driving home the importance of vaccinations, getting his COVID booster and his flu shot at the same time.
It's really important that we all keep up to date as the weather's getting colder, as we know flu season's kicking in, runny noses, keeping ourselves safe, keeping our friends safe.
Safe, as flu season is only just beginning. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
If you have a sick child and you're struggling to find children's pain medication, you're not alone. Experts say there is a shortage in Saskatchewan and across the country, but that's beginning to ease. Pharmacy shelves have been bare or nearly empty of children's Tylenol and ibuprofen for months. It's due to production shortages and an increasing demand as that rougher than usual cold and flu season we just heard about arrives. The CEO of the Pharmacy Association of Saskatchewan says hoarding is adding to the problem, but parents shouldn't panic if they can't find medication at their local store.
One of the features that we've noticed is that people are actually buying more than they may actually need, and that's creating some of a bottleneck at stores as well. You know, Tylenol and Nav are not always the answer. There are other alternatives that are readily available and are not being hoarded by other people. They're right there in the store. So again, there's alternatives. So the point being is that parents don't need to be concerned about this, that there are ways to take care of their children to make sure that they're safe and healthy.
Experts say guardians should speak to their pharmacists to find out more about those alternatives. Alberta Premier and the leader of the United Conservative Party, Danielle Smith, has won a provincial by-election, capturing a seat in the Alberta legislature.
Woo! Well, that was a nail-biter, hey? Thank you all so much for coming out. I know that we've got
Smith won the by-election with nearly 55% of the vote. She defeated 4 other opponents in the riding of Brooks Medicine Hat. Smith became premier last month when she won the leadership of the United Conservative Party. Alberta's next provincial general election will be held in May. A semi-truck driver who smashed up 7 vehicles in Regina yesterday is now facing impaired driving charges. It happened mid-afternoon in a residential neighborhood in the east end of town. The vehicles were parked along the bike lane on Park Street, south of Arcola Avenue. Nobody was injured. Police arrested the 38-year-old truck driver at the scene. He's from Mississauga, Ontario. The driver is due back in court in 2 weeks from now, and his truck has been impounded. A Saskatchewan First Nation launched a solar facility today. It says will provide not only clean energy, but also economic prosperity. Cowessess First Nation and its partner Elemental Energy built the 10-megawatt facility on reserve land, just a few kilometers southeast of Regina. All of the power produced here at Cowessess Solar Project will be sold to Sask Power, then distributed through the provincial grid. It's enough electricity to power at least 2,500 homes. Chief Cadmus Delorme says this project is just the beginning.
This 10-megawatt project is 95% owned by Cowessess First Nation. We are going to buy out our partners in the first 5 years, our partners that have helped us get to this state. In year 6 and on, we will use the revenue, the profit of this project to make sure we reinvest in our renewable energy projects. Right now, Cowessess is embarking on a 200 megawatt solar turbine partnership, which is going to have 36 turbines valued at $200 million. And so we want to make sure we're equity players in that. So some of the profit made here will lead to us having more investment in not only owning the project, having it on our land, but having equity as well. Secondly, some of the profit made will go to unfunded areas, language, family, culture, off and on reserve. So this is going to be a huge opportunity for us to not only own it, but use the profit in areas that will benefit us even more.
The federal Minister of Natural Resources attended the launch of the solar project. Ottawa pitched in $18.5 million to get it off the ground. Some alarming numbers were presented at the UN Conference on Climate Change today. A coalition of 100 organizations released data indicating that emissions are as much as 3 times higher than what has been reported to the UN. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed concern. He also applauded the coalition's work.
Timely and granular data on the sources of the emissions is essential, but we are still lacking a full picture. And many significant sources of emissions are not yet on our radar in real time. And that is where this initiative comes in.
Former U.S. Vice President Al Gore also spoke at the conference in Egypt. He called the underreporting of emissions shocking and thinks some governments are deliberately doing it. Gore is one of the founders of the coalition called TRACE. It gathers evidence about emission sources using satellites and remote sensors. One of the presenters at the climate conference is a grade 12 student from northern Saskatchewan. Sean Bernard is from Waterhen Lake First Nation, and he takes virtual classes from Carpenter High School in Meadow Lake. He's speaking on a panel tomorrow about decarbonizing our planet. We connected with him and his teacher in Egypt.
The whole reason that we're here is for our organization called Decarbonize. So it's a group of students from around the world. So there's 60 countries that came together via Zoom, where we all work together to attack the conversation of climate change and our solutions and the problems that we see and where we're from, and how we are, like, what are solutions that as youth bring to the table.
So with the United Nations, Sean's age group is actually considered the child, hence the name for the Child Manifesto. And so they collaborated on it, and it's a brilliant document that you can check out at decarbonize.me if anybody's interested. I have to admit that when we did the run through yesterday, I did cry a little. It's a very empowering to see how much growth and how much caring it is to see all of these youth coming together.
When I come back to Canada, I hope to bring back those solutions and that voice of that worldwide that they're trying to find these solutions, and that I can bring it back to my community so we can learn that, especially on my reserve, where we can say that there is this change and that we do have these voices inside there, and that there is an Indigenous perspective that is going to be out there.
This morning, Premier Scott Moe joined Canadian Armed Forces members, veterans, dignitaries, and others to pay tribute to those who served in times of war. The ceremony was held at the Legislative Building, and the Premier laid a wreath at the Saskatchewan War Memorial outside. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the Dieppe Raid, a key event during the Second World War. Remembrance Day is this Friday. We'll be back after the break.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 22 model clear-out is on now.
CBC's Heather Morrison joins us now with the forecast. Heather, it's your first weathercast with us, and you're bringing the cold weather. What's with that?
I know, Natasha, it has been a brisk awakening into the world of weather. Mother Nature took a sharp turn into winter, and she has not taken her foot off the gas pedal. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with here in the province. So we do have an extreme cold warning in effect that started in Lloydminster yesterday. It's extended into Kindersley, Rosetown, Biggar, as well as the Battleford. So we're looking at temperatures into the minus 30s with the wind chill driving it, maybe even into the minus 40s. It's possible we could break some records tonight. We know that Alberta broke a few records last night. Today could be our turn. So current temperature in the province, you can really see how the coldest spot is really hovering around that central region. Well, we are well below normal for this time of year. So last year on this day, Saskatoon hit a high of +8, Regina +9. Today in Regina, you're sitting at what was your daytime high? -14. So well below seasonal. And of course, the wind chill making it feel a lot colder as well. And we are waking up with that wind chill to some much colder temperatures tomorrow morning as well. So you can see that cold spot hovering around that central region, Kindersley, Saskatoon, Prince Albert, hovering at that -27 mark. That wind chill is going to be driving it down even colder. So it's going to feel like -36 in the morning. This is well below seasonal for this time of year. So So that's just something to be aware of when you're getting up tomorrow morning. The good news about this high pressure system is that it's putting a little bit of a lockdown on our province. So you can see there at the bottom of your screen, see that snow trying to creep in? That's a low pressure system coming up from Colorado, and it's not going to quite make it into our province. Looking like it's just going to dust that bottom edge there, maybe Estevan getting some snow, but mostly it's going to be sticking around in the States. You can see really that system hovering around the Montana area there. So here is what is causing this cold to be just sitting over our province. It's a high pressure system, and as you can see, it really doesn't move much tomorrow and into Thursday. It's not going to be until Friday till this high pressure system finally dissipates. We're going to see a little bit of a warm up, but I'm using that term very gently here, Natasha. So you can see in Regina for your 7-day forecast, so you've got -13, -19 overnight on Thursday. By the time we get to Saturday, we are seeing a slight bit of a warm up there, -11, -12 overnight, and then finally into those minus single digits there on Sunday. But we are looking at a little bit of snow as well. That's what happens when we get that low pressure moving and warmer temperatures, but some flurries. Same story in Saskatoon, but a little bit colder tomorrow night, -22. And finally, by Sunday, we're getting into those single digits, but again, seeing a little bit of snow. So there is a look at your weather, Natasha. If you took your parka out, it's not time to put it away.
Oh, I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to, Heather. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thousands of lanterns were released into the sky to celebrate Thailand's Festival of Lights. The event is meant to be a symbol of letting go of misfortunes and welcoming good luck in the coming year. The spectacular show overhead was matched by one on the ground, involving tree trunk boats decorated with flowers and candles. We'll be back after the break. The midterm elections in the United States did not result in the Republican triumph that many analysts and pundits had expected. But the Democrats under President Joe Biden appear to have lost control of the House of Representatives and probably the Senate. The final results are still days or even weeks away. CBC's Magda Gabraselase has more.
No red wave here, and the final breakdown of Congress still up in the air.
We are going to take the House back.
Votes are still being counted, but it's believed that Republicans could end up with a slight majority in the House. No call on the Senate either, though there have been some crucial wins in tight races.
Thank you. Thank you.
Republican Ron Johnson re-elected in Wisconsin, but Democrats had a big win flipping Pennsylvania. John Fetterman, despite his health issues, took out Republican candidate, celebrity doc Mehmet Oz.
Every county, every vote. Every county, every vote. And that's exactly what happened. We jammed them up. We held the line. I never expected that we were going to turn these red counties blue, but we did what we needed to do.
But there are still a few Senate races too close to call. A big one, Georgia. It's Democrat Senator Raphael Warnock against Republican challenger Herschel Walker.
I look forward to continuing on that journey together over the next 6 years.
I'm like Ricky Bobby. I don't come to lose.
Win or lose, they will square off again. To win Georgia, you need more than 50% of the votes. Neither one could do it. A runoff election is scheduled for next month, which could decide the Senate. Across the board, this is not the outcome Republicans expected. The blame game has begun.
This is truly a pivot point for the Republican Party. This is a time that Donald Trump is no doubt in the rearview mirror, and it's time to move on with the party. It's time to move on with candidate quality. It turns out Mitch McConnell knew what he was talking about candidate quality. We've seen it in Georgia and other places around the country where if they would have just woke up 12 months ago and stopped taking his lead and took the lead of what real Republicans, real conservative policies meant and mattered, we'd be in a different place.
But former President Donald Trump saw it differently last night.
The numbers have been amazing so far.
Today, President Joe Biden said there's much to celebrate.
Our democracy has been tested in recent years, but with their votes, the American people have spoken and proven once again that democracy is who we are.
Still, there's so much that needs to be called. We are still waiting for all the votes to be counted and to see what happens here at Congress. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington.
CBC News has obtained correspondence about an international soccer match that never happened. In May, the Prime Minister denounced plans to invite the Iranian soccer team to play an exhibition match here. But behind the scenes, his government was taking steps to make it happen. Canada Soccer eventually called off the match in response to public and political backlash. Ashley Burke has more.
As Canada was gearing up for a World Cup warm-up match against Iran, controversy was growing. Even the Prime Minister denounced Canada Soccer's plan.
It wasn't a very good idea to invite the Iranian soccer team here to Canada.
But CBC News has learned that days later, government departments continued discussions behind the scenes about facilitating the match. An earlier email shows Global Affairs had raised concerns if visas are not issued, Iran could launch an official complaint against Canada Soccer, and it could argue that Canada should not host the World Cup in 2026.
It's not acceptable for us.
Hamid Ismailian's wife and daughter were among Canadians killed almost 3 years ago, when Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps shot down their flight. He was among the families writing letters demanding the match be called off, over concerns Iranians with ties to the Revolutionary Guard could be part of the delegation.
We knew that IRGC is usually part of the team going to any country that the national teams in Iran go.
In fact, the government received 58 visa requests from Iranians, including officials who were not players on the team, a higher number than expected. Officials even discussed how Global Affairs might have to issue special travel exemption letters to Iran's delegation because of the tight deadline.
I think it's shocking. It's a shocking misuse of the national interest letter process. They're meant to be used very sparingly and only in the most important circumstances. An exhibition game against the Iranians certainly doesn't qualify.
But ultimately, those letters weren't issued or visas expedited before Canada Soccer called off the match under public pressure. The soccer organization now says that it was a mistake to schedule the game against Iran, and so far has not faced any penalties for calling the match off. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Another frigid night is in store, and Heather is back to let us know just how cold it's going to get.
Yes, Natasha, unfortunately, we're still dealing with the cold temperatures across the province. Let's look at some of those frigid temperatures that are going to be in Regina. So overnight tonight at midnight, minus 15. You can see that wind gusting up to 23. Tomorrow in the morning, minus 18 with that wind chill. It's going to feel like minus 26 as you're on your way to work tomorrow morning. A little bit of a warm up, of course, throughout the day, minus 15. Still really chilly with that wind chill, minus 22. Taking a look now at Saskatoon, where it's a little bit colder up here than it is in Regina, minus 24 with that wind chill, minus 30 overnight. Here's the kicker for you, minus 26 in the morning with the wind chill. It feels like minus 23, warming up a little bit in the morning to noon at minus 20. So Natasha, there's a look at those cold temperatures for you.
Thanks for that, Heather. Well, that's it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask. Glenn Reed will be back with more at 11. Thanks for watching.